Good afternoon, South Africa. Welcome to Afternoon Express. I'm Bonnie Bulu. Hope you had an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is probably the most important awareness months out there. We chat to a professor who tells us how cancer is detected and treated. We also look into an organization that is doing work in raising awareness around cancer in the rural Eastern Cape. We ask the question, what role do genetics play in the risk of contracting cancer? And we also share an amazing survivor story. Danilo's in the kitchen.
Indeed, and it's all about delicious food right here on Afternoon Express. Before we get into telling you what exactly you could be making for dinner tonight, also don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. This topic is one that has taken my life over the last while, particularly of all the interviews that I've had on my radio show of late, and people who have overcome this. And so what I want you to do is share with us any stories you have of cancer, and particularly breast cancer survival stories. And go and find us on our Facebook page as well as on our Twitter account. We'd love to hear all those stories from you. You can also call us live on the shows today and hopefully have some of those stories and questions and comments live with us right here on Afternoon Express. So share your story with us if you have an inspiring story to share. And speaking about things that have really changed my life, food is one of those things. And obviously today we're making something delicious, but it's because it's Monday, it's meat-free.
So meat-free Mondays are not just for hippies.
It's for you and I too, okay?
Exactly, and there's a specific reason for it. So we'll talk more about that a little later. But yes, we're making a meat-free veggie wrap.
Delicious. And Bonnie was saying just before we went live, she's like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm going to link over to you and say that basically you guys are dancing to a whole new kind of rap today. So should we dance for it just because it's Monday?
Okay, let's go. 1,
You
2,
do the beat.
3.
All right. Let's start the show off on the couch.
I need the first one. Well, joining us now is an organization called Celebrate Life Give Hope, which focuses on raising cancer awareness in the Eastern Cape and looks at the critical need to early diagnosis. Too often in rural communities, cancer goes undiagnosed until it's too late due to lack of information, funding and limited resources. With us is Jabulile Ratsibe from Celebrate Life Give Hope. Welcome to the Loft.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you started this organization as a result of a personal tragedy that inspired you to do this work. Please tell us about it.
Well, my sister was diagnosed with cancer in 2011. And then in 2013, at the beginning of the year, because a lot of people that we knew were also diagnosed, she was feeling a little bit down. So we tried to find a way of picking her up. And we decided to celebrate her life specifically and also raise awareness about cancer. So we had a dinner for her to celebrate her life and get people to talk about her. But at the same time, we were raising funds for cancer. We raised funds that were donated to the Cancer Association of South Africa.
Right. How does Celebrate Life Give Hope actually raise awareness of cancer in the rural areas? And how do you support cancer patients?
So we're not, at the moment, we're working specifically via the Cancer Association of South Africa. Okay. So we have events. We participate on the Relay for Life, which is held in East London, specifically in March, every second week of March. So we would have, we get people to come from the Eastern Cape that we know, specifically Nomtata area and surrounds, to be part of the Relay for Life, to support those people that we know who have been diagnosed. Yeah. So we'd have survivors as part of our crew, and we would have obviously their families and people around them.
Yes.
So continuously we also the idea to hold dinners for. We identify a survivor that you would like to celebrate on that particular year, and then we'd have dinner to celebrate their life, and also obviously selling tickets and raising funds, which are donated to the Cancer Association.
Right. And how low is cancer awareness in the rural areas still? We
find that a lot of people do not really understand about cancer. We had a case of somebody that I know, for instance, that there are specific myths that people would have in terms of, no, you can't remove your breast because you're gonna die, or there will be somebody who would say that, if you go for treatment, you're going for radiation, they're gonna put you through this iron,
Wow.
So when people come specifically from the small towns in the Transkei, most of them would have to go to East London for treatment. Mm-hmm. They would have these particular misconceptions that they have about cancer because they don't know about it. Yeah. So some of them refuse treatment. We've had a case of a lady who, because they don't understand the treatment plan, who didn't want to go through some of the treatment. So They hear that I have to do mastectomy. They heard that I have to do chemotherapy. They hear I have to do radiation, but they don't understand how it all fits in. So she wanted to give up and stop doing treatment, and then we had to encourage her to, to go for treatment. Obviously, bringing in other people that we know that have gone through the treatment, so that it is actually more personalized for them.
Yeah. And why is early diagnosis still such a problem? Are people afraid to come forward even if they can feel that something is wrong in their bodies?
But I think it's because people do not understand about cancer. So you get sick and then somebody tells you that you've got an ulcer. In the meantime, nobody actually looked whether it was actually an ulcer. In the meantime, you're dying of stomach cancer.
Wow.
So I think there is some of our doctors maybe are not doing a thorough job, but also in certain cases, people are just too far. They don't know what's wrong with them. They will go to a sangoma, they'll go, wherever, not understanding exactly what is wrong with them. And then later on, they find out that the main problem was the fact that they had cancer. By that time, the cancer is on stage 3, stage 4. But I also think that other people just take it for granted. I mean, my sister was a medical technologist. I thought that she understood about cancer. She never did a mammo. She found out when her cancer was already between stage 3 and stage 4, when if she had maybe get herself checked in time, she could have maybe have had better chances.
Right.
She fought for 5 years, but by the time, it
was
had
late.
done a lot to her body.
Yeah. What are some of the false stigmas and beliefs around cancer in these areas, or in South Africa in general?
I think there's a lot of people that just believe that, somebody did something to you. Depending in the rural areas, people would think, you rather go to the sangoma to find out exactly what is wrong with you. They do not understand that when you've got this particular lump, that it is actually a lump. So there's a lack of education and a lack of awareness. So when we were working specifically at the time, supporting the office of the Cancer Association in Umtata, they would go into the different areas that are in the Eastern Cape, basically in the Transkei, all Transkei, to try to create the awareness and make people more aware in terms of get to understand what is wrong with you. If you've got a headache, don't own it. Don't say it's my headache. Don't say I know it or it's my stomach. It's like, I know this problem. Go and find out, get the doctor to diagnose, go and find a second opinion if something doesn't go very well, and make sure that you get to be treated properly.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Okay.
We love nothing more than to hear from you here on Afternoon Express. Danilo standing by.
Indeed. So we're going to continue this conversation about breast cancer after the break. Lots of interesting research going into the topic itself. But on our social media accounts, particularly on Facebook, we'd love for you to share with us your stories of people who have survived cancer, and particularly breast cancer. Not too long ago, I met a young girl named Kothar who was in her matric year when she was diagnosed with cancer, went into remission, and finally she's been cleared of all of her results. And these stories are ones that we always need to remember, and we need to keep telling these stories so that young people know that the sooner you can get treatment, the more that your chances of surviving this disease like cancer. So looking forward to sharing more of those comments. You can also give us a call, 083-913-3728. We'd love to hear your stories live right here on Afternoon Express. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Afternoon Express. So just earlier on today, I met a lady named Ziyanda who came up to me with her mother, very excited to take a photo because she loves the cooking on Afternoon Express. And she said, I must give Clem a big high five on today's live show. So this is for you, Ziyanda.
Thank you so much. Clem. Thank you, Ziyanda.
And because today is a Monday, we're going meat-free on the show. And because it's a rap kind of Monday, we're going to meat-free rap is what we're going to try and do. I thought I could come up with something, but I really couldn't. I disappointed you today.
I would have saved you.
Okay, but you never have in your life and you never will. Great. So, halloumi is our alternative that we're using today, which is an interesting cheese.
It is, because it's quite a dense cheese, and you can treat it as you would meat.
Yep.
But halloumi is not the hero for the day. It's the vegetables. Okay. And I want to kind of highlight vegetables right now because so often people are put off by vegetables because they don't understand how to cook it.
Exactly. And you mentioned this previously on Afternoon Express, was try and incorporate vegetables into a delicious meal. And you forget that you're eating the vegetables. Don't just steam little pieces of broccoli and then hope that you're eating them is going to make you happy.
Exactly. I'm using some amazing, beautiful broccoli tender stems that I get from Woolies.
My favorite. Literally, they're my weekly staple.
And you can eat them raw as well. So we're talking about substituting vegetables or other ingredients for meat. So what I do is I'm going to treat it like a steak.
Okay.
So first thing is brush some oil on it. Don't have to get crazy with it.
I think you're making a mistake by treating it like a steak. But
trust me, it's going to work. So you know my rule with meat is always when you as soon as it hits a hot surface, don't mess with it. Let it do its own thing. And the same goes for vegetables. So I'm going to take this amazing broccoli and start lining them on a griddle pan.
Ooh. I just recently bought myself a griddle pan. So this is great for me for this evening.
So make this one. Go for it. Send me a picture.
Cool,
and our viewers are there as well. Send us a picture if you try this recipe. So the good thing is, we don't have to cook this to death. So often we are too familiar with vegetables that are cooked like into oblivion.
Yeah, they become opaque almost. They
And you
just
don't
lose
wanna
all
do
their
that.
colour and all of their nutrients.
Nutrients, color, and texture, and flavor. Like, really important. That's everything you lose when you start killing vegetables by boiling forever. So don't do that. Grilling is a perfect way to cook them because you kind of get in that charry, smoky flavor as you would with meat.
But without cooking them straight through so that they become sloppy.
Exactly. You've got it. You're paying attention. So as I said, the halloumi's also great. Same thing. It's almost got that meaty texture already.
And it's also got a nice salty texture, well, salty flavour to it. So it's one of those cheeses that you can get different types of halloumi as you go. And I love the way you're saying halloumi when it's halloumi.
Okay.
We're Greek in here.
Halloumi.
Halloumi.
Okay.
Hello, Clem. Halloumi cheese.
There we go. So all I've done is I brushed some olive oil on it. And again, once it hits the pan, don't mess with it.
Yes.
So that's going to go down. And like I said, a little bit of olive oil to help it stop sticking, but also a non-stick spray is your best friend.
Okay,
Do
cool,
it. Especially in a griddle pan. They tend to stick.
They do, but a nice little bit of olive oil is a good idea because you obviously wanted to get that chariness on the outside.
It is.
Without melting it through. Okay.
Exactly. So I'm a professional. I'm not going to use... I like feeling food as I cook it, so I'm not going to use tongs. But at home, please use the tongs.
Yes, don't burn yourself.
Okay, so... What I'm going to turn it over, and you can see already some of those charred lines have started to form.
Oh, I do see that there.
It's not a lot for right now, but I mean, I'll let it cook a little longer. I'm kind of breaking my own rule here.
But you're also at home, even though you can't maybe see it, the smell here, you can definitely smell that they're starting to get that nice little charry flavour to it, which gives it a sort of smoky feel, because it's a fresh vegetable. It's a greeny, fresh vegetable. To add that little bit of smokiness is important.
And it also brings out so much additional flavour than just the normal broccoli flavour.
Right.
So many people are actually put off by broccoli. I think it's because we're cooking it incorrectly.
Okay.
So definitely try this. Let's see, maybe my halloumi is a little ready. No, it's not, and that's a good thing. If the halloumi doesn't lift, it means it hasn't sealed properly just yet.
Good tip. All right, so what's left for us to do in this part?
So in this part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to season a little bit of salt and pepper on my broccoli, and I'm not going to put any salt on the cheese because, as you mentioned, it's got that briny flavour in there already. So I'm going to continue charring for a little longer, and I'll turn these guys over in a second. When we come back, we're going to assemble the whole thing.
Delicious. There's a whole bunch more new... Well, I'm tongue-tied on a Monday already. It's been one of those weekends. A whole bunch more ingredients still to show you and how to put this whole wrap together. So make sure you stay tuned. If you want to get the list of ingredients and a link to the recipe, what you've got to do is SMS the keyword for today, which is WRAP, W-R-A-P, to 33650. That SMS will cost you R1.50, and your free SMSs do not apply. That's WRAP to 33650. And you could be making this for dinner or sometime during this week, and all the details on how to finish it off a little bit later, right here on Afternoon Express.
We're privileged now to be joined by Professor Justice Apffelstaedt, who is the Associate Professor of Surgery at University of Stellenbosch and head of the Tygerberg Breast Clinic, and has more than 20 years' experience in the field of breast health and the management of breast cancer. Welcome to the loft, Professor. Lovely to have you with us.
Good afternoon, Bonnie.
Awesome. So what is breast cancer? We know there's a lot of cancers, but what is breast cancer, and what is actually happening in the body part when we say somebody has breast cancer?
In breast cancer, cells in the breast divide and divide more, still more, and then they go to different places where they're not supposed to be, like, for example, the lungs, the liver, and the bone, and ultimately kill the patient.
Wow. So how can you tell if there's cancerous cells in the breast?
When the cancer is very small, just after it has begun, we obviously cannot pick it up because it's a very slow-growing cancer. It takes about 2 years before we can pick it up on any form of imaging, which is conventionally mammography. But then it takes another 2 years before we can see the cancer on a physical examination, and another year plus minus before the woman can actually feel it in her breast.
Right. During a breast cancer screening, you have to ask a series of questions to ascertain the patient's history. What does this entail?
We want to know about the family history to gauge the patient's risk of developing breast cancer. Then we also look at personal risk factors, like, for example, how many children, at what age the first children, how long breastfed, and we make out of the pedigree and the individual personal risk factors, a risk estimation. Yeah. It is here important in the pedigree that also the male side of the family needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of women are scared or just uncomfortable with the idea of a breast cancer screening. Why is that? Is it quite an uncomfortable experience?
For many women, it has been uncomfortable in the past. These days, breast cancer screening should not be uncomfortable for more than a couple of seconds while the mammogram is being taken, which is really, really short. And if you look at the converse side of that, how painful it is to have an advanced breast cancer, I think there's a lot to be said for screening mammography.
Absolutely. It's a scary thing to find out. How old do you have to be to get a mammogram?
We suggest, like all other cancer associations worldwide, that women from age 40 onwards should have annual mammographic screening, which is the gold standard.
Okay. Now, even though Jeannie's not 40, she went along to get a mammogram just to show us how simple and easy it can be.
Jeannie, just come closer. We're going to do the mammogram now. We're going to be taking 4 pictures, 2 from the top and also 2 from the side. We'll start with the right breast. Just put your right ear against the plate for me. Put your breast on the machine. All right. We're just going to give slight compression. That's just to hold the breast still. I'm going to take the exposure first and then this one here. That was the right side. Let's do the left side quickly. All right. I'm just going to apply compression again. Okay. So we'll just hold it there and we'll just take a picture. Jeannie, we're done with the 4 pictures. I hope it wasn't too uncomfortable.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's a different view of Jeannie's breasts. I'm glad that she's cancer-free. But we know that women have contracted cancer, breast cancer, younger than 40. So why are mammograms only for women over 40?
Because like many other cancers, breast cancers are also a disease of the more mature women. Just to give you an idea, for worldwide, only about 6% of all breast cancer occurs in women below age 40. Here in South Africa, we see 16% of all breast cancer below age 40 because South Africa has got a very young population.
Right.
So it's more an age effect. This brings me to another thing. We are seeing many more breast cancers than we saw before. One of the reasons is the advancing age of the female population.
Wow. So what is the difference between an ultrasound and a mammogram?
A mammogram uses X-rays to detect cancer, and it's very good for microcalcifications, as we call it, small spickles of calcium in the breast that can be relatively easily detected. Ultrasound uses sound waves, and it's much better than mammography at detecting soft tissue densities, which is also a sign of a different sort of early cancer. So we use both in combination. And most recently, we've started to use automated breast volume scanning, where, in contrast to prior ultrasound examinations, where the examination was very much dependent on the individual operator, a permanent record of the entire volume of the breast is established, and we then can review the images later.
Yeah. And how accessible are these procedures to just ordinary South Africans, especially those without a medical aid? And how much would it cost if they didn't have a medical aid?
Currently, we have no screening program in the public sector that is organized, and that would actually be the goal that I've been striving for, and that is also set by the WHO, that countries in the middle income range should start screening programs for breast cancer. We have seen that and have data from our own practice in the public sector, in the private sector, that if you screen regularly for breast cancer, the survival of the woman will be the same as a woman without breast cancer. So breast cancer is eminently curable.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor. This is really important information you've shared with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Yeah. As usual, we love hearing from you. Thank you for all your questions and your comments. Let's hear what you had to say.
Yeah, big thank you to all those questions and comments, but also some of the stories that you've shared of your cancer survivors. And I found one on the post on our Facebook page that I had to read out for you. It had a little picture attached to it, so I thought I'd show you guys. It's from Karen Thomas, who says, "This is Mum Anita Thomas, diagnosed at 75 years with breast cancer. Today, she is cancer-free, and we take part in all charity walks. She's 80 and a survivor." And she's posted this picture. I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can have a look at that, just to show those incredible stories. And there are loads of them on our Facebook page. So if you would like to be inspired, make sure you go and read through some of those stories, and hopefully I'll get to share some more of them with you right here on Afternoon Express. Now, after the break, we're going to be speaking about something fascinating. It's called genetic testing. We have a mother and daughter with us in the loft today, and the daughter went for genetic testing and has reduced her risk of getting cancer from 85% all the way down to 2% just because she knew through genetic testing. All that and more after the break. Welcome back to Afternoon Express. I'm really inspired by all of you sharing your incredible stories on our social media accounts. And today, I have another very important and special message to share with you, and a story that has to be told on national television. Genetic testing is a type of medical test that can confirm or rule out a suspected genetic condition or help determine a person's chance of developing a passing on genetic disorder. More than 1,000 genetic tests are currently in use, and more are being developed regularly. Today, we're joined by Lillian Loyce Ellis, who, after defeating breast cancer, which she was diagnosed with at the age of 34, took part in genetic research that would change her life and the life of her daughter, Camilla, forever. Ladies, welcome to our loft.
Thank you.
It's so great to have both of you here because, Lillian, the chances were 20 years before this time that we're currently living in, the chance of you sitting on our couch and sharing your story with us would have been much different. And Camilla, something similar for you too. But let's start with your story, Lillian. When you found out you had a lump on your breast when your daughter was only 8 years old.
I found the lump on my breast through self-examination. And basically, because breast cancer was so rife in my family, my mother, my aunts, my great-aunts, my cousins, very, very rife in my family. I almost immediately thought, well, this has to be breast cancer, you know. Yeah. And when they did all the testing and things like that, I said I needed a lumpectomy. But I asked them to please do a mastectomy because I didn't want to take any chances. I had 2 little children, Camilla and her younger brother. And so I had a double mastectomy, prophylactic on the other side. And then a year later, I had reconstruction.
Sure.
And I've never regretted that decision.
Yeah, and obviously then you go through the recovery process and you were clear of your cancer.
Yes, absolutely,
afterwards.
for 10 years. And then, 10 years later, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, which was, you know, through the research that I'd been, you know, this program that I'd been part of, it actually gave me a 50% chance of being diagnosed with ovarian cancer. But I kind of put my head in the sand and I thought, I've done breast cancer, I'm not doing another kind of cancer. Stupidly so. Yeah. Anyway.
And so that diagnosis came through and it was wrongly diagnosed first of all?
For about a year, yes.
What did they diagnose it with?
They diagnosed it with irritable bowel syndrome. Sure. And put me on medication for that, which is basically something they give to, you know, northern suburbs, Johannesburg housewives, you know, when they can't cope with life. But that really wasn't the case.
And you got that treated as well?
Yes,
and
yes, I had chemotherapy for that, and that's 17 years ago, and I'm great. Amazing.
And for 25 years of being a model, what an incredible story to be able to tell your children and to pass that on. I mean, that story of that fight that you've went through.
Yeah.
Camilla, let's turn to your story, because genetic testing is something I don't think a lot of South Africans necessarily know about. I certainly didn't know much about it until we got chatting off air about this stuff. And tell me about how that changed your life forever, because you've also got 2 kids, and seeing as your mum said it ran in the family, how did it help you?
It really empowered me once I found out. But before that, in the process of getting to, you know, doing the testing, was a matter of, you know, we spoke about it when I was about 20, and it wasn't widely known here. Obviously, my mum had taken part in a test from Holland. So we spoke about, you know, taking the next steps, but I was only 20, before children and everything. And as a family, we decided I was too young to find out, you know, a result like that, whether it be positive or negative. And so we waited, and last year I turned 34, well, this year I turned 34, and that was when my mum was first sick with breast cancer. Sure. So for me it was, I've had 2 little girls, and for me it was really important post my second daughter to look into it. So my husband James and my parents, we kind of took the next steps to go and get tested.
Well, talk to me about that testing process. What actually happens? I mean, and what did you find out?
Well, my gynecologist directed us to an amazing genetic counsellor, and we went and met with her. And you have a session, and then you discuss your family. You talk about the whole family history on both sides, as we said, the male and the female side, and obviously my mum's strong link on her side. So we discussed all of that, and then it's as simple as doing a blood test. So then I gave my blood, and in order to actually at the time to make it a simpler process, my mum also used her blood as a positive control. So it was obviously an identical match when they found out that I did carry the gene.
Okay, so you carried the gene, and then what did you do? Because, I mean, knowing that that is the gene that you carry, the chances of you getting cancer when you grew older or in the next couple of years was how high?
Well, it was 85% in my lifetime. So it's not specific to my age exactly, but in my lifetime it was. So it was pretty much that I would be waiting to get breast cancer. And I've always tested very thoroughly. We've actually done mammograms and self-examination. All my doctors have known, you know, my kind of family history. But as what happened with my mum, it's up to you. It's up to you to take control and empower your own health and your kind of future. So for me, it was really just vital post having my kids. And, you know, we've got a young family, and I spoke to my husband and my parents, and we said, okay, well, you know, let's do it. And it was a massive shock. It really was. Because I think you believe, you know, you always want to believe the positive side and say, oh, well, I won't get it, you know, the product of two people.
I'll be that 14%.
And it will be, absolutely. But,
just, I know we have to go quickly find out about social media, but what did you do with that information? You knew that you had an 85% chance of contracting breast cancer. What did you do?
It was very clear to me, and I opted for a bilateral prophylactic mastectomy.
Sure. Okay, so you took the precautionary route to make sure that that didn't happen to you. Now you've reduced that rate all the way down to 2%.
2%, yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
Sure. If this story has inspired you like it has me, make sure you stay tuned, because later on we'll be speaking to an expert on how to get involved in genetic testing and how much it costs.
So many inspiring stories on such an important topic. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. Earlier on, we asked you the question, do you have any cancer survivor stories to share with us? Comment on our Facebook page or tweet us at Afternoon Chat using the hashtag Afternoon Express. Morgan Smith says, I don't have a survival story here. I lost my dear aunt due to breast cancer this year on my husband's birthday, and it makes me all teary again. To all survivors, be blessed, and those fighting, be strong in your faith and pray. Charmaine Privy Mahoya says, I lost my grandmother on the 16th of December 2014. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. The breast was removed. She went through all the treatment, but somehow the cancer spread to her brains and she couldn't make it. We're so sorry to hear that. Our condolences. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. When we return, more cooking and an exciting competition. Don't go away.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. Clem and Pedro in the kitchen making a wrap because it's halloumi on a meat-free Monday. See, I can't get this veggie wrap thing going, this rapping to a new tune. It's not happening.
I've seen you rap before, so I know you can.
Well, that was also pre-recorded and we shot it about 20 different times. Welcome back to the show. Clem is our obviously chef in the kitchen today, and because it's a Monday, we're going meat-free. We're using halloumi as an alternative to meat, but we're going to show you how to incorporate as many vegetables as you can into this wrap. And these are particularly Clem's favorites that he's putting into the dish.
They really are. So, as you can see, my beautifully charred broccoli and halloumi.
Yum.
So, as I mentioned, we didn't season it with salt. We can do pepper, absolutely. But what's very important is lemon.
Okay, how come?
Halloumi loves lemon. And it just...
And so does broccoli.
So does broccoli. That's why I've got 2 cheeks of lemon. It just really brings out so much flavour in the cheese and in the broccoli.
Okay, cool, delicious. And it's also got that zestiness, because obviously that charring flavour of it all is quite... I don't know how to use this word, but the only word I can think of is like it's dark, and then you get that nice little fresh zestiness of the lemon, which is amazing.
The dark is probably umami.
Yeah.
Really, it is.
Oh, really?
It brings out the umami flavour in the ingredients.
Okay.
Can you pop this to the side? We're going to go to the next stage.
Sure.
So I've got
the heaviest thing in the world.
It is, and it's nice and heavy.
Light.
So I've got my amazing cauliflower carb clever wraps. And I love these not just because it's carb clever. They legit taste so good.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
It tastes of cauliflower.
I've seen them in the store and I've always never known what to do with them, so now I'm getting great ideas.
It's really easy to work with as well because all you do is just toast them slightly and makes them more pliable and easy to work with. Okay. So Dan, can you pass me my big platter?
Sure. And can I ask a quick question about those wraps? Are they quite hardy? Will they look after themselves?
In what sense?
As in they won't crumble or break?
They won't crumble.
Okay, good.
And I mean, Willie's spent a lot of time and a lot of effort developing the perfect carb flavor wrap. Because often when you have a cauliflower pizza, what happens is you pick it up, it just falls apart everywhere.
Especially like when you're making like a sort of pancake dough sort of thing. That also tends to do the same thing. It tends to just collapse.
Exactly.
Nice to know these are sturdy.
And you can see I'm like not even using my spatula right now. I'm using my hands because they are just that sturdy.
Nice.
So cool, that's done. Nice and warm and toasted. So Day, another amazing ingredient. Can you pass me the sriracha cream cheese, please?
Sriracha cream cheese.
And you know we love sriracha in the loft.
Totally. I'm not even joking you. This Sunday for my radio show, I always buy a whole bunch of snacks. And what I did was I ended up buying this exact dip because it's actually really nice. Cream cheese with a whole bunch of veggies on the side. It's delicious.
Delicious.
The flavor of sriracha is amazing.
So we've got some protein in the cheese over there and some protein in the halloumi.
Yep.
Quite high, actually. On average, 25 grams of protein per 100 grams of cheese.
Sure, you just whipped that up at the top of your head, hey?
No, you have to do some research. We can't just come on TV and start talking. So,
like we always do, Clem. Yeah, of course, we research everything.
You don't?
Oh, awkward.
So some butter lettuce goes down.
Yummy.
And then I've got this amazing crunchy Asian slaw, which is so cool because it's been seasoned already, and there's a little seasoning pouch in the bottom, which I'm going to serve on the side. So again, that just goes on top of the butter lettuce.
Ooh, delicious.
And it's got
nice
some
crunch.
sesame seeds in there. It's got cabbage. It's got carrots. It's got corn. Everything deliciously beautiful and tasty.
Okay.
So onto that goes my beautiful charred broccoli.
Let's open the coriander for you.
Yeah, totally go for it.
Do you want some?
And some halloumi.
While he's putting those final touches on, obviously add your own little flavors to this dish. Just make sure, obviously, try that Meat Free Monday thing. And if you want to get the details to the recipe, or obviously a link to the recipe and a list of all the ingredients, the keyword today is WRAP to 33650 at a cost of R1.50, and your free SMSs don't apply. And if you want to know exactly how Claire made this dish, here's a quick recap. Now, earlier this morning, I was listening to the radio and I heard some research about HIV and AIDS, and the research is being done overseas. They have found a new breakthrough overseas, which is going to take them about 5 years to develop. But earlier on in the show today, we were speaking a bit about breast cancer, and we're learning so much about the new developments in the industry. We have cancer survivor Lillian Loyce Ellis and her daughter Camilla joining us in the loft, who found out that they both had a specific gene mutation that highly increases the risk of cancer developing. We're back with Lillian and Camilla, and now we're joined by genetic counselor Frida Loubser. Welcome to our loft.
Thank you very much.
So Frida, let's crack this open, because I've learned so much just today about how much research is going on globally. Genetic testing is one of those elements that recently, I'm going to put that in inverted commas, has arrived in South Africa. So let's first begin with what genetic testing is.
So genetic testing is to look at the DNA. It's usually quite targeted based on family history. So if you know you have a family history of breast cancer and ovarian cancer or combination, you might look into the genes associated with an increased risk or predisposition to breast and ovarian cancer. That's usually how we approach it. We have 20,000 genes. The reason that it's a nice round number is because we don't yet know how many we have, and we don't yet know the function of each one of those genes and how they work together. So we're still learning about the genetics of breast cancer, but we've come a long way since the discovery of BRCA1 and BRCA2 in the 1990s.
Well, clearly you have, because obviously we've got a story here that has proved that completely right, and it's changed their lives in so many ways. Just knowing is such an important factor in this process. What are some of the stigmas or misconceptions about genetic testing?
So I often come across families that have lived with the misconception that you should only be aware of the family history of breast cancer on your mother's side, whereas we know that as a human being, you were made from a sperm cell and an egg cell, and half of your genetic information is from your mother and half of your genetic information is from your father. So even though males can carry these genes, and they do have risk implications but much lower than women, we know that they can often carry these genes without showing cancer in their lifetime, but can still pass it on to their sons and their daughters. So very important to be aware of family history on both your mother and father's side,
thinking about those aunts, those grandmothers, and being aware of early breast cancer and ovarian cancer and a combination of cancer presentation in the family.
Yeah. I'm sure people must be asking lots of questions, but one of them must be that you guys don't only look for breast cancer, but it's one of the elements that obviously we're speaking about today. Genetic testing can help you understand more about the genetic link in certain disorders and things in your family, and to take the relevant steps from then onwards. So when it comes to something like a breast cancer and a family comes to you, what is the process of receiving treatment? Is it expensive? Is it painful? How does it work?
So ideally, it would come with a referral. So someone involved in the care of the patient has looked at the family history and assessed that there is reason to refer to a genetic counsellor. So young age of breast cancer, under the age of 50 is usually our rule of thumb. Ovarian cancer is closely linked to genetic cause. So any combination of ovarian cancer and breast cancer, but just many individuals with breast cancer in the family is going to be a starting point.
Yeah.
Then when the patient comes to see me, we assess that family history. We assess the number of family members with cancer, the age of onset, and other factors like the pathology of that cancer, to look at our risk factors and decide whether there's reason to suspect a genetic cause. Because 90% of breast cancer is not genetic. So only 5 to 10% of breast cancer is due to genetic factors. And we need to use the family history to know where genetic testing would be appropriate.
Sure.
We then inform the individual of what those genes do in their normal function, what happens when things go wrong, what would be the implications of finding a gene, what would be the risks of developing a cancer, what are the options for dealing with those risks. And each woman needs to decide what options make sense for her at a different stage of life. Have you completed your family? Are you close to menopause? How do you manage those risks in a way that makes sense to you?
And Camilla, the process for you, was it simple, was it easy, was it friendly, and was it expensive?
It was easy enough. I mean, it was difficult from an emotional perspective, and when you find out, you know, positive that you do carry the gene, and saying that the lead up to my choice to have the operation was, you know, the lead up to the operation was way more difficult than the operation itself for me. So it was, but you know, the correct support and the counselling element is very important to discuss all of the options and discuss your risk profile, as you said, and it does make you feel empowered to make an informed choice, really, with the options at hand. Expense, you know, is it expensive? I think, I mean, it's for us, it wasn't very expensive because my mum also gave her blood as the control. So it was a simple blood test and a match. I mean, it's not very cheap, but it's not very expensive.
Totally.
I mean, Frida, what's the total amount it can be if you can hone in?
Sure. If you know of the specific change in your family, so someone else has had the groundwork done of finding where the spelling error is in that large gene, it would be about 1,000 Rand. But if you're doing it from scratch, where no one has looked at your genes, we would say ballpark 10,000 Rand.
What is money when you're talking about the future of your life? So, ladies, thank you for sharing this important information, and thank you for sharing your stories, ladies. Good to have both of you with us right here in our loft. It's time for us to find out how you can win with us on Afternoon Express.
The days are getting warmer, and the beautiful South African sun makes days spent at the beach and by the poolside more appealing. Over the coming weeks, Afternoon Express with Dettol have come up with a daily beauty tip to ensure that you and your family maintain healthy, feeling even-toned skin. Here's today's Dettol even-tone tip for the day. Germs and bacteria are not the only causes of breakouts and blemishes. Sometimes we do more harm cleansing than we do good. Here's today's Dettol Summer Even Tone tip of the day. Overstimulating your face can also cause breakouts. The best way to cleanse your face is to wet it with lukewarm water and use your fingertips to gently apply a hygiene soap like Dettol Even Tone. Avoid scrubbing, as this will irritate the skin. Rinse with lukewarm water and pat dry with a soft towel. There's something about this summer that has me super excited, and these even tone tips will definitely come in handy. We want to know how you plan to keep it even this summer. Share a selfie on our Facebook page using the hashtag #KeepItEven, and you could win one of 4 fantastic summer selfie hampers, which include Dettol Even Tone goodies, an LG X camera phone, and the Striker Pose selfie stick. Everything you need for the perfect summer selfie.
It's time for us to find out what you guys are saying online. I found a really cool positive story that came through from Patrick Khoale, who says, I'm so inspired by your show. My wife survived stage 4 ovarian cancer and lung cancer. After being diagnosed in 2015, the doctor said she only had 3 months to live. The cancer had spread from her ovaries to her lungs and all of her organs, but by God's grace, she is still alive. The hospital said that they could do nothing for her, but she carried on fighting through. God saw her through, and today she brings awareness about cancer. You must definitely go and check that out. So many inspiring stories, and I hope you guys are going to get a chance to read them on our Facebook page, Afternoon Express. We'll be right back after this.
Keep it even this summer with Dettol's Even Tone Hygiene Soap.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. We're discussing the very important topic of breast cancer awareness as we celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month in South Africa. And we've got a caller with us on the line, Maleficent. Welcome to the Afternoon Express. How are you?
Fine, thanks yourself.
I'm very good, thank you, Millicent. Tell us more about your story or your question or your comment.
Well, I was diagnosed breast cancer in 2010. I was 55 years. And then when I wake up in the morning, it was just on my, it was exposed near my breast. And then I went to Bara. They said it was definitely the breast cancer. And then I went for operation. I went for chemotherapy. And then they said it was on stage 1. But I'm surviving very well. I'm 7 years now living. Cancer is not a death sentence, but it's just a disease that it can be cured.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh,
thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, it's nice to hear those kinds of stories. Hey?
Yeah, so many courageous women on the show today. Really
Totally.
inspired.
Prof, I wanted to ask you a question. I mean, women at home that are facing these sort of issues in their lives where maybe finances are where they need, where are not in a great space, or wanting to know how they can figure out for themselves at home, what are telltale signs of something like breast cancer or cancer as a whole? What should we look out for?
Primarily, it is the painless lump in the breast. That's the most common presentation of breast cancer. And women who develop a painless lump in their breast that persists after the next menstrual period should actually go and see a doctor. Then there are other signs also, changes in the skin of the breast, changes in the nipple, that should be brought to doctors' attentions.
Okay. And in terms of other lifestyle choices, we've spoken about genetic testing as a way for us to get out of, to get to understand more about our bodies. What other ways and lifestyle choices can we make to minimize our risk of getting cancer?
Well, I don't want to say this to the audience, but have kids early. But that's not a lifestyle choice these days anymore. Women postpone childbearing and breastfeeding ever more later in their lives. But there are other risk factors that we actually have control over. And it's been very well shown that if you gain something like 20 kilograms between your 20th and your 40th year of life, then your breast cancer risk increases by more than 50%. Wow. Likewise, if you do not exercise, and by exercise I mean here strenuous exercise for 4 hours a week, then your breast cancer again is raised by about 50%. This is the reason we have in South Africa an epidemic of obesity. Sorry, that we're sitting in front of the food here now.
This food is not going to make people get to
Well,
that
this
point.
is very healthy food.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
meat-free. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It really has been inspiring having you all share your stories with us.
Yeah, you're all amazing and beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to you at home, thank you so much for joining us. Join us again, same time, same place tomorrow. Happy eating.
Good night. Looks so yum. You guys can tuck in. Coming up tomorrow on Afternoon Express, we share the stories of South African artists who are telling their stories in unique ways, including choreographer Kervin Fortuin and media entrepreneur Rahima Isa.
Another feel-good production.